This video is supported in part by Retro Days, a place for nostalgia nerds to gather, share memories, chat, and engage. Go to retrodays.com or check their YouTube channel linked below. Hey there and welcome back to Gen X Grown Up. I'm John and I am a Gen X Grown Up. Thank you, by the way, for checking out this video. A couple weeks ago I did a short showing that our friends over at Super Impulse had sent us a care package of some of the newest entries in their tiny arcade line. And I asked our viewers in that video which of these items you would like to see reviewed first. And several of you, just like Decky Games, Sean, and ADTube27 said BurgerTime was what you would love to see reviewed next. And we're gonna do that here, but that's not all we're gonna do, because I also have the unfinished business of this old My Arcade BurgerTime that I had in my collection and never opened. Now, this may seem like an unfair fight, but we are going to compare these two devices. They're both BurgerTime. They're both in the $20 to $25 range. This one came out a couple of years ago. This one is brand new this year. So is it a fair fight? Is it not? You know, big form factor, small form factor, tabletop, handheld keychain. And so in this video, we're gonna look at the design, we're gonna look at the gameplay, we're gonna look at the value and determine which of these BurgerTime units is worth your $20. Let's get started.
Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown up.
Now before we get to the table, let's establish where we are. Now this My Arcade unit came out a couple of years ago, like circa 2018 I think. And especially back then, even I think still today probably, these units have a history of pretty much all being Nintendo on a chip. It's an NES version of BurgerTime. But it's a classic arcade game. You've already had 20 or 30 years to establish what BurgerTime ought to be, and so the gameplay on this should measure up because this game is a timeless classic. And then there's this tiny arcade version of BurgerTime from Super Impulse. Now these little units we've looked at several times here on the channel. They're not NES on a chip. Like a lot of the basic fun units we've seen lately, the Super Impulse tiny arcades tend to be a custom rewrite of the classic arcade game. That can be limiting, that can be freeing. It depends kind of from game to game. So we're gonna see which it is in this case. And so with the stage set, let's get our two BurgerTime candidates to the table and see what they have to offer. Here are the contenders. Let's get started, I think, with the older one, the original, the My Arcade BurgerTime. We're gonna get to the Super Impulse in a second, but I've never actually reviewed this My Arcade BurgerTime on the channel at all. So let's get into that right quick. Like many of the more modern My Arcade machines, really nice box design. I love the original artwork on the side, inspired by the classic BurgerTime. A little description of the game history. My Arcade definitely respecting the history of these games. And though I bought this a couple of years ago, I literally have never opened it, so I'm just now cutting the seals on it. And there's no instructions here. They must have been watching me throw away instructions and decided to stop giving me instructions. That might be. So here's your My Arcade BurgerTime. Really nice design on the side. I really like that. I mean, just the quality of the decal on there is gorgeous. It's very shiny and glossy. On the back, as usual, we have a volume up and down. We have a headphone jack with a battery, and you could power this with a micro USB if you're so inclined, or batteries. Down on the front, we have a little coin door that serves as the power switch. On the control deck here, we have a reset and a start. Two buttons for some reason. I mean, BurgerTime only needs one, a pepper button. I don't know what that's going to be about. And the control, as you'll recall, is actually just a four-way D-pad, but it has this red bat stick on the top, which you can screw off if you want to, or screw it back on, entirely up to you. I've said time and again that I really like the overall aesthetic design of these My Arcade units. That bigger, boxier style lends itself to, you can see more artwork. It's more shaped kind of like an original arcade unit. The jutted out control deck is just more reminiscent of an original arcade machine. I noticed a little bit on the side here, I thought it was peeling, but in fact, these actually have a protective film on them. I don't remember having those, or maybe they were just never falling off on mine. I'm gonna leave it on there because mine's a display unit, but yeah, you could peel that off and expose it, but that just shows it was protected from the factory, so that's great. All right, well, before we get into gameplay, let's switch over and take a look at the Super Impulse BurgerTime. The packaging is exactly what we've come to expect from these world's smallest items from Super Impulse. Take it out of store mode, put it in a demo mode. Don't start making noise. I can see it came on there. Yeah, I mean, it's the same little plastic container, but let's get into it though and get to the unit. So inside we have the unit itself. We have that increasingly impressive little catalog and instructions. Don't need instructions. Pepper the Chef is looking great. Let's take a quick tour of the hardware. So around back, yeah, there's that keychain that is increasingly improbable. This is way too big to put on your keychain. But yeah, so we have a power on-off switch and we have a battery compartment. Batteries are included in this one. And then around front, we have what looks like the same 8-way joystick with a little plastic molded restrictor plate. And again, 2 buttons for BurgerTime. Maybe one is a player start on this one. I don't know. We'll find out. So it's very clear side by side. These are very different offerings, even considering they come in at about the same price point, which is interesting. They don't use the same art style. They don't use the same layout or even the same size or controls. All that's different. But all of that taken into account, it still is going to come down to what does the game play like. So when we get started with this My Arcade guy. All right, we're on. And start game. The volume turned up on it. Yep, okay, and start. Yep, looks like NES for sure. Same deal, yep. Ooh, that joystick is not as responsive as I would like. Ugh, hard to make ladders. BurgerTime is not a super forgiving game in general, so you gotta have a pretty good controller. And turns out that second button is just another pepper button. So it's just kind of the economy of having one form to mold. Ugh. Yeah, and I'm missing turns because I can't manage the controls. I don't think this controller is better or worse than the other controllers that have been on other My Arcade units. I think that BurgerTime just requires a little more precision, is what I'm experiencing. So, you know, BurgerTime is a patience game. If you will learn to wait for your opportunities, it's actually easier than you think it is. Get over there. Oh, see, I'm having trouble making that turn. I know where I want to go. Yeah, it's punishing me. Ugh, the controller's punishing me. I mean, it's a straight-up NES ROM, which was a fine BurgerTime port. No complaints, I guess, about that. If you know what you're getting in for. But, oh, man, I'm having a lot of trouble just controlling. And I know if you're not good at BurgerTime in the first place, the last thing you need is the controls fighting you. Yeah, let's finish a level at least. We're almost done with the tops of these buns. Again, making that turn. Man. I'm personally not a big fan of the sound of BurgerTime on NES, especially the music. Like this in-game music, this kind of frantic music is fine, but I mean, for my money, the music that's in BurgerTime on the NES, not a huge fan of. All right, let's move on to Super Impulse's BurgerTime. Let's switch it on. Whoa, first things first, how about that lighted marquee, right? I mean, a lot of the new Super Impulse ones have that, and I love that that's on these small units. Okay, let's get started. Game ready. Wish me luck with this tiny control. This is much faster. Wow, it's faster. And loud. Wow. So, hold on. So, this is important. This game moves faster, and they have done something in this original version of the take. Look how easy it is for me to make turns. They put in some kind of logic to help turn those ladders, and yeah, look how easy it is for me to make these turns and do what I want to do. I mean, that's critical to BurgerTime, you know? It doesn't have all the voices you really need for BurgerTime. I can hear the music struggling a bit. Yeah, drop you down there. Ho ho ho, and this one has high score support. I think. I mean, it's in here. Does it persist? That's going to be a big plus if, in fact, that does persist. Let's try again. The pace is great. Controls are, I mean, for this size unit, pretty impressive. I feel like I have a fighting chance with this version of BurgerTime. You know what I mean? I think the audio is subpar compared to the NES, but in terms of playability, I think I'd rather play this one. All right, now that I've got a couple of games in it, let's test that high score. I'm going to turn it off and back on. I mean, if there's a high score table, I'm guessing it's because it persists. Fire it back up and see. The title screen. Come on, show me some high scores. There it is. High scores that persist. That is a great addition. Okay. Have you picked your winner yet? I know I have, but before I announce which one I think is more worthy of your $20 for Burger Time, let's run down how I arrive at that decision. And I want to start with the My Arcade version here. We knew pretty much what we were getting into. Even though I bought this 2 years ago, we knew that My Arcade has this great industrial design. I love the boxy layout of My Arcade. I love how it looks more like an old arcade cabinet. Great for a display piece. We knew it was going to be the NES version of Burger Time, and that's exactly what they delivered here. Whether you're a fan or not of the NES version of Burger Time is irrelevant here. You got what you came for. My big problem with this one really was, A, I'm not a huge fan of that version of Burger Time. Limited color palette and slightly odd sounds and all. I mean, it's okay. The controls are really what turned me off of this one. I think that the Burger Time for NES is a really demanding and unforgiving control scheme, and it really expects you to have that nice, tactile, kind of mushy controller that you would have on the NES in order to make those tight turns and get up and down ladders, because it's a very frantic game. If you miss a turn, you're going to get killed. And that happened to me over and over. Now, maybe if I just had a D-pad instead of this, bat top stick, I could screw that off, but even then, I can't get my hands around the controller like I could with the NES, so it'd be very, very limiting. So all of those things taken into consideration, the best I can do for this My Arcade version of Burger Time is 2 3/4 tokens. It is Burger Time. It's what you'd come to expect from a 2018 era My Arcade version of Burger Time. So let's shift gears then over to the Super Impulse version of Burger Time. I would argue that even though this came out more recently, it has more of an uphill road to tackle because you have that tiny form factor. You're rewriting Burger Time inside of here, so you have to be very faithful to the original game as best you can with a limited dimensions. The pixel ratio is much, much smaller. I noticed it seemed the color depth was greater here, so the colors were more varied and more vibrant. But the thing that really nails it for me, two big things really. The first and most important is the control scheme. Even though it's this tiny little nub of a controller, I found it easier to control my Pepper the Chef in Burger Time from Super Impulse than I did over on the My Arcade. I made turns easier. I was able to not, get hung up on ladders and stuff like that because I was a pixel off or whatever. It seems like they built in a bit of a forgiveness within a couple pixel range when you make those turns, and it made it so much more playable, even with it being smaller. Also, those high scores save. If you're going to play this casually even once in a while, you'd like to have your high scores saved. That was the point of original arcade machines, is getting your initials on the high score thing there. And so I was able to do that here, and that's a great value add. And so for all those reasons, plus just general cuteness and the fact that I like this little unit, I'm going to give the Burger Time from Super Impulse Tiny Arcade 3 1/4 tokens out of 5. It's still not genuine Burger Time, but the experience on it is great. And if you're just picking it up casually to play, then you really can't go wrong for $20. So by now I expect you can see the writing on the wall. I said I would pick a clear and decisive winner, and I'm sure you can do math. But some of it comes down to aesthetics too. I still love the My Arcade design. I love this kind of big chunky arcade machine. It looks gorgeous on a shelf or on a display stand. It reminds you of Burger Time at a glance, which is awesome. Super Impulse, much smaller, littler screen. I'm an old guy, so I have to wear my reading glasses to even play this guy. But I had more fun playing this Burger Time. And for me, that's what it comes down to. If you're a collector, like I am, you're gonna get both of them. You see, I have both of them, and I would have both of them either way. I enjoy collecting them and having them, but if you wanna pick a decisive winner that you're gonna have more Burger Time fun with, go with the Super Impulse. It's newer, the controls are better, it saves those high scores. You're gonna have a great time with this. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. Thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think about my choice and whether or not you agree or disagree. I love to have a conversation. I really hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye. Hey, you made it to the end. If you liked this video, the best way to say thanks is to watch one more. Here are a couple suggestions that you just might enjoy. And if you love our content, maybe consider becoming a Patreon supporter by following the link on screen.
Unacceptable for grown-ups. Your dinner cannot just be french fries.